Hey, Pretty Girl Club. I want to talk about people who are detracting from the decentering men movement and they're trying to claim it as radical content creators like Blunt Girly. They talk about a gender war as if it's women's responsibility to end the gender war. Which gender created the concept of war to begin with? Not just gender wars. I'm talking about physical wars. I'm talking about enslavement. I'm talking about dominating and subjugating others. Which gender created the entire concept of war to begin with? Because a lot of the people saying that decentering men is contributing to a gender war, they have no smoke for the actual creators of the concept of war. And I heard Blunt Girly say that there are some women who just can't seem to get dating right. And my question is, okay, what is the right way to date? Because a lot of these female content creators who speak against my talking points, they tell me that I'm wrong, but then they never give the correct solution. So, what is the solution to all of the female dating problems? If you guys are such experts on dating, if you're such experts on men, if everything is the woman's fault, my question is, what's the correct way to do it then? Because a lot of the women who claim to have never had any horrible experiences with men, they lie up and down saying that everything I've ever dealt with a man has been great. But notice how these are always anonymous content creators who will never tell you their background story about their relationships. I mean, I'm a decentering men content creator and I'm anonymous, and even I have shared some of my background stories with dating. So why is it that the women who are so pro dating, they're so excited about dating, they're so excited about men, they're fighting tooth and nail to defend men, but then when you ask them to talk about their men, they go silent. When you ask them to give examples of how to have positive dating experiences like them, when you ask them how they met their guy and all these detailed questions, they can never give you an answer. Why is that? Well, it's because a lot of women who are defending men on their YouTube channels, they're just doing it in a performative way. They're doing it so they can gain attention. They're doing it because they're mad that pretty women are decentering men and we're still getting the princess treatment. That's what it is. A lot of women who feel like they have to be male-centered, they have to be that way because that's the only way they get treated as humans, is by bowing down and worshiping men. These are the women who accept the breadcrumbs. They feel like if they don't accept breadcrumbs, they're not going to get anything. I also heard her say another talking point that only feminists and red pill men, they express the most frustration in dating. That's false. There are tons of people who express frustrations in dating. In fact, every human being in this world has experienced conflict, even in a healthy relationship. And I pulled up the stats on that, and I can pull up some screenshots of articles right now that talk about how even people in healthy relationships have disagreements and frustrations with each other. So to start off a video within the first 30 seconds telling a lie and then providing no evidence to back up that claim, that's not very logical and unbiased. That sounds like the opinion of a content creator who is threatened by women who can think for themselves. Because if you are truly happy as a trad wife, if you're truly happy in your relationship, you wouldn't be mad at women who are feminists. You wouldn't be mad at women who decenter men. Why would you be mad at them when you're busy enjoying your relationship? This is no different than women with kids who are happy mothers getting mad at child-free women. You wouldn't get mad at that woman's lifestyle if you don't desire that lifestyle yourself. And I heard another talking point that said that women who are feminist leaning, like women who decenter men, show signs of being dumb because they don't want to explore outside of their bubble. And my response is, women have a right to have dating standards. Okay, so if her dating bubble means that she's only going to talk to emotionally available men, or she only talks to faithful men, or she only talks to attractive men, then that's her standard. So you can't say that, oh, you failed at dating because you wouldn't go outside of your bubble. I'd rather be single and happy than be in a relationship and lower my standards. So women choosing to stick to that and stand 10 toes down, that's not a bad thing. So in her video, Blunt Girly is using this language of, if you're decentering men or if you're more of a feminist leaning woman, then you're just trapped in a bubble. And so you're missing out, basically. She wants women to believe that we are missing out by not centering our lives around men. And she feels like if you haven't found a husband, you can't keep a man, and it's because you're the one who's living in a bubble. So no smoke for the men. No commentary about how men could be living in a bubble. It's all the woman's fault. And then she makes the argument that people who show signs of intelligence, such as Albert Einstein, they would investigate and explore. So essentially, if you don't date enough men, you're a dumbass. If you choose to take a break from dating, you're an idiot. And only the smartest people in the world are in relationships. So do you see how she's also conflating your level of intelligence to your relationship status? Do you hear? I'm sorry. I'm trying to take this seriously. I can't even hold in my laughter. So if you're single or if you choose to decenter men, apparently you do not have any signs of intelligence. And then she says that smart people like to explore and they like to investigate. And women who have chosen to decenter men, or maybe they want to take a break from dating, those women have investigated and explored. And it's their experiences that led them to have the anecdotal evidence in their own life to support the fact that they should no longer prioritize those same men. So I find it interesting that an unambiguous black woman who knows all of the nuances of toxicity in the black community, you come from 2 black parents and 4 black grandparents, and you mean to tell me you not only have you never had a negative experience with any man your entire life, but on top of that, you think that women are unintelligent if they choose not to date? Do you see the gaslighting there? I don't have to date a man in order to prove my intelligence to random strangers on the internet. And also, this whole gaslighting talking point about how, women are unintelligent because they're not exploring different types of men. Well, I thought that men didn't like hoes and 304s. So do you see the hypocrisy there as well? Women get shamed if they continue sleeping with more and more and more men in hopes that men will change. Or if they continue dating 10, 15, 20 different abusive guys, people tell the woman to choose better, right? And so women who have chosen to decenter men, what they're doing is they're choosing themselves. So they're choosing their boundaries, they're choosing their emotional peace, they're prioritizing their careers or their children if they already have them. And another talking point she made was that a truly smart person would try to figure out why things are the way that they are. And so, once again, she's blaming women, saying, well, you need to figure out why this man is behaving that way. So now women are responsible for becoming a makeshift psychologist. You're responsible for becoming a sociologist. You're responsible for becoming his therapist. You need to dive into his entire mindset and figure out why he's behaving this way. So, do you see how all of the responsibility and emotional labor is still being placed on the woman? So the woman now has to try to fix that man. She has to try to dig into his mindset and see what she can do to fix him, or she has to try to change herself so that she doesn't trigger that man's wounds. So it's like she has to walk on eggshells in order to gain these men's approval. Do you hear how incredibly male-centered that is? And then she goes on to talk about how if you understand a person's perspective, then you wouldn't get mad. And that's actually false. I understand why men have low self-esteem. I understand why men have anger issues, but that doesn't mean that I accept it and think it's okay. So just because you understand the reasoning behind someone's degeneracy, it doesn't mean you have to tolerate it in your life. And so that's another mistake that Blunt Gurley made in one of her recent videos talking against decentering men. She's basically saying that if you don't have a man, it's because you don't understand men. So once again, she's tying your intelligence to your relationship status. So she's actually making a subconscious dig at anybody who's single, because she's implying that, you're just too dumb to attract a man. You just don't know enough about what attracts a man, and that's why you don't have one. And we all know that's false. There are so many reasons that women can be single. They could be single because they live somewhere where they're not around a lot of men. They could be single because they're busy in their careers, or they just choose to socially isolate themselves. But notice how she's automatically making it that you're just an idiot, you lack social skills, you don't understand men enough, as if men are a monolith. And notice how she says all of that, but she doesn't give not one solution. And it's like, okay, she wants you to understand men more, but she doesn't give any talking points of what the nature of men is. So the thing that I respect about decentering men creators is they will actually pile together evidence and articles to kind of make their point about the nature of a lot of men. But here you have Blunt Gurley, where she's making all these talking points, but then she's not backing it up with anything. She's not giving you examples of what a quote unquote good man looks like, of what her relationship is like with her good black man that she's with, allegedly, what qualities to look for. It's the same talking point that women do when they say, oh, you're just bad at vetting. And it's like, there is no perfect vetting process. There's no such thing as a perfect, fail-proof method to get a perfect relationship. That doesn't exist. Blunt Girlie also said in her video that intelligent people are less easily angered. So she's implying that if your man makes you angry, it's because you're just dumb. You're getting mad too easily. So she's basically saying, don't let him make you mad. So he can do whatever he wants. He can cheat on you. He can be disrespectful. He can talk crazy. He can make you pay all the bills. And if you get mad, it's because you're just being easily angered. So she's exposing herself because she's basically admitting that you have to be almost like this doormat if you want to guarantee that you'll have a relationship. And so she's proving my point that the women who have chosen to not center their lives around men, these are the women who have more boundaries. They don't want to spend their time having to constantly manage their anger, and they're getting emotionally dysregulated by their boyfriends, and then they have to try to fix him. They have to try to figure out what his mindset is. Women are no longer choosing to have that free emotional labor. We're not doing that. It's not our responsibility to fix men's emotional problems. And also, we don't have to prove to other people that we're smart. Being in a relationship does not make you smart. In a lot of cases, it makes people dumb. And also, if being in a relationship is proof that you're so intelligent and that your life is so good, then why is the divorce rate so high? Why is the breakup rate so high? Why does the average long-term relationship only last for what? I think it was 2 years and 5 months or something. Or maybe it lasts for about 2 to 5 years. Another talking point that I heard is that the women who are the most angry with men are the women who don't understand men. But notice how in a lot of these videos, these women, they don't name examples of who they're talking about. Who are these women that you think are the most angry with men? Name names. Name names of YouTubers. Name names of content creators. Notice how I'm naming Blunt Girlie. I didn't say that every single woman who's in a relationship is male-centered. No, I just said Blunt Girlie herself. So I'm making it specific. I'm making sure to differentiate who I'm talking about so that I don't make a generalization about all women in relationships. And then there's this other talking point of women are going to hit the wall at 30. And so they're saying that women's value decreases with age. So they're tying a woman's worth to her youth and her fertility and her beauty. And we all know that I don't believe in hierarchy thinking. So I don't say that young women are at the top, or like if you're in your early 20s, you're at the top, then mid 20s, you're in the middle, then if you're 30 and above, like you're trash. I don't put human beings on hierarchies, and I don't support hierarchy thinking. So that's why I don't agree with the whole hit the wall talking point. Because men are not a monolith and women are not a monolith. So that's a flawed logic. Because they're ignoring the fact that people over 30 are compatible all the time. There are plenty of women who are over 30 years old who are doing just fine in dating and relationships. And no, they didn't believe that they were hitting the wall, and neither did their partner. So that's a form of projection. They're trying to teach you a scarcity mindset, like, oh, you better hurry up and settle right now. You better find the closest man you can because you're 29 and you're going to hit the wall at 30, and so your value is going to go down. Remember how Kevin Samuels used to talk about the dating marketplace? So he was basically supporting this talking point that women are like this commodity and that men are an even more scarce commodity. So basically men's value was higher than women's, and as a woman you have to try to fight to get a man, and then if you don't, it's because you're a loser. So again, they're doing this thing where they're teaching a scarcity mindset. They want you to feel like you're on a time crunch. And that's what people do when they're giving you like a sleazy sales tactic. It's like a sleazy way of trying to sell a man's value to you. Hurry up and get it now. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to get a boyfriend, is when you're 30 years old and below. And it's like, meanwhile, there are plenty of women 30 and above who are doing just fine. And they don't feel like they're at the bottom. So I think that in Blunt Girlie's recent video, she was kind of projecting her own insecurities onto her viewers. She has her own fear of aging. She has her own fear of losing her beauty or losing her desirability, because we know that there are a lot of statistics about men and cheating and stuff like that. So she's trying to project that onto the women who have decentered men. And it's like, first of all, if you have decentered men, you don't even care about the wall, because even if you did hit the wall, men were never the center of your life anyway. They were never the center of your self-esteem. You have an internal locus of control. Centering men, that's an external locus of control, because you're allowing the entire male population to determine your worth. And then people are saying, like, oh, if you feel hurt by people saying you're going to hit the wall, you need to dive deeper into that. Well, I mean, I'm not hurt by that at all, because I never found my value in my age anyway. That's why I have no shame in talking about my age at all. I think that aging is a beautiful thing. And I think that for me personally, as my age has gone up, my confidence has gone up. I literally look better now because I have more money. So I look better. I'm able to invest more into self-care. So what you don't believe in can't hurt you. So this talking point about how if hitting the wall, if that concept hurts you, it's because you need to do a deep dive. Well, yeah, because that would mean that you're male-centered. If that comment hurts your feelings, it's because you are the one who cares more about the male gaze. So that comment doesn't hurt me because I know that I'm beautiful. Even if a guy were to say, oh, I only like 28-year-olds. You know, you're 33, Exoticals United, so I can't date you because you hit the wall. That wouldn't hurt me at all. In fact, I'd be glad that that guy would be gone, because the whole premise of a relationship is you're supposed to be compatible, right? So if I'm over 30 years old and someone does not want someone who's over 30, that's just an incompatibility. That's not offensive to me at all. So that's actually not something I would get angry at. So that talking point is another projection. Like, oh, if you're hurt that you hit the wall, you need to dive deeper into that. No, the only women who are really hurt by that are women who have actually hit the wall. It's women who know that they've let themselves go. It's women who deeply desire a relationship, or, you know, they prioritize it at the top of their list. And by the way, decentering men, it doesn't even mean that, like, you can never date. Decentering men is just this chart right here. I've always said that on my channel. I also think that there's this stereotype that red pill women have, where they think that there's no way to be balanced. So they hear the phrase decentering and they think that it means devaluing, or, you know, they think it means hatred. And it's like, no, let's look up the definition of words. And it's very clear that based on Blunt Girlie's recent video, she doesn't know the meaning of the word decenter. All that means is you're shifting your focus away from something that used to dominate your thoughts or your perspectives. So you're emotionally deprioritizing that thing. That's what it means when you decenter something. So when somebody says they're decentering men, it just means that men are not like the center of their thoughts. So if there are 24 hours a day, they're not spending 12 hours thinking about a man. They're not spending the majority of their time and energy thinking about a man, pursuing a man, texting back and forth with a man, decoding a man's behaviors. That's what it means to decenter. And that's why I say that you can still be in a relationship if you want to and be decentered from men. People do that all the time. They have a boyfriend or husband and they still have their own hobbies. They still have career goals that they focus on most of the day. A lot of women that are happily married are not centering their entire life around that man. They're not spending the majority of the day thinking about their husband. Oh, what is he doing? What is he watching? Where is he going? Oh, let me make sure that he's happy. They're not thinking about this the majority of the day. A lot of women who are actually in healthy relationships, they still have a life outside of that man. They still have an identity outside of him. They still have their own hobbies and goals. So that's all the term means. So anybody who says anything differently or calls it extreme, they're talking about something else, because they don't know the definition of the word decenter. And by Blunt Girlie saying that the decentering men sector, or by saying that my content is extreme, she's basically admitting that she agrees with this chart right here, which shows men as the center. She's agreeing with Chrissy that, you know, this is how it should be. This is the default for how your life should turn out. And again, they're aligning with these red pill men, just like how the red pill men say, I don't care about your career. I don't care about your accomplishments. I don't care about your financial stability. You didn't prioritize getting a husband first. So it's the exact same talking point. They're saying, I'm mad at you because you have other things going for yourself in life other than a man. And it sounds like it's really just a power struggle. A lot of women in unhappy relationships are going to start popping up on YouTube. They're going to start calling you an extremist if you don't view relationships as the top priority in your life. They're going to start calling you an extremist because they know that if you take back your power and decenter men, you're taking away her power. Because a lot of women who are in these marriages, a lot of women who want to one up you and say, oh, I got a man and you don't. I can keep a man and you couldn't. A lot of those types of women, they get their social status from their relationship status. And we know that that's the case with Blunt Girly because I just proved within the first 20 minutes that she said that basically if you're not in a relationship, you're dumb. Go watch her video. I can link her video below actually so that you can watch it before she deletes it. But if women stop worshiping marriages and relationships, if women were to stop putting relationships on a pedestal, it takes away the social power that married women have over single women. So married women, they can no longer use their relationship as a flex over you because now you know that, wait a minute, she's in a 50-50 relationship and he's spending his money on OnlyFans girls. She's in a 50-50 marriage and her husband was just in my DMs. So now that people have kind of pierced the veil of marriage, now that people are starting to expose what a lot of it really is like, I think that some of those male-centered women are getting mad because they feel exposed. And if you don't believe me, go and ask your friends and family. Go ask any woman that you know who's in a happy relationship. Ask her, hey, do you center your entire life and emotional state and your self-esteem around your husband or your boyfriend? Any woman who's in a healthy relationship will say, no, I don't center everything around him. And another question that I have for the women who call us angry and bitter for decentering men, what proof do you have that a woman is angry? So because she's single, she must be angry? Because she's not married or because she's child-free, she must be angry? Because she warns women about some of the subtle psychological traits of abusive men, like how I do, she must be angry? So you're telling me that trying to protect other women by warning them on my YouTube channel, that means that I'm angry. Do you see the gaslighting there? So she's hoping that I am afraid of being called angry. And it's like, I don't have that inferiority complex. I'm not scared of getting an angry black woman stereotype like how a lot of other women are. So I don't really care about people thinking I'm angry or I must be bitter or, I must be some sort of ugly 40-year-old woman. I don't really care about that because I don't have to lower my dating standards so I can prove that I don't hate men. So once again, do you see there's kind of this pressure where it's like, I'm going to pressure you into a marriage with a man because you need to prove to me that you're not bitter. If you're not like me, which is a married woman, or if you're not like me in a relationship and living with your boyfriend, then you must be an angry, bitter woman because you decentered men. You decentered yourself from living with a man. You decentered yourself from going 50-50. You decentered yourself from marriage or from having children. So now, therefore, you must be angry. Do you see how insane that sounds? And it's like, since when is self-preservation the same as anger? Do you see how she was conflating the two definitions? She was conflating those two things. And let's talk about anger because anger in and of itself, that's actually not a bad thing. Everybody experiences anger. You get angry when you're in traffic or when the line is long or you're kept on hold at the customer service office. So experiencing anger in itself, that's not the part that's toxic. The toxic part is if you were to actually act on the anger or if you were to go and harm somebody with your anger. So me making YouTube videos, that's not me harming men. That's not the same. If it really was me harming men, then YouTube itself wouldn't even let me stay on here. So me expressing my opinions and my experiences with men, that's not harmful. So you can't make the argument that I must just be angry. Because making a YouTube video, that's not even me expressing anger. And then in Blunt Girly's video, she even admits that she created a fake dating profile of a man so that she could try to see like what the competition was or what the options were that men had available to them. So do you see how much of a pick-me behavior that actually is? I've never even thought of that. I've never done that in my life because I know my worth as a woman. So I feel like if a man can't see it, it's not because, oh, all the other girls on the apps were better than me at attracting a man, so that's why they got a man, and, I'm lower than that. No. If a man doesn't see my worth, that's his problem and not mine. So the fact that she admitted that she went on a dating app and created a fake catfish profile of a man just so she could see what kind of women are putting themselves out there, that behavior reeks of desperation. It's showing desperation because she was trying to dig into the mindset of men so that she could psychologically manipulate her way into being more visible or more desirable. in the male gaze. And it's like, I don't have to play all these psychological games in order to get a man to like me. And if I do have to do that, then I shouldn't be with that man. That's why I call it decentering men, because it's like, I'm not going to center my behaviors around you. Oh, I have to make sure to flip my hair 5 times, then I have to bat my eyelashes 2 times, then I have to change my tone of voice, then I have to do all this stuff so that I can psychologically manipulate this man into falling for me when I know that that's not my authentic self. Do you see how much of a pick me mindset that is? And then I saw her say that the older that the women were on the dating apps, the worse they looked. And hey, that may be true. I'm not saying that there are not any old, unattractive women out there. But guess what? This is the Exoticals United channel. So this is a pretty privileged channel. So we don't have to worry about, oh, we're so ugly and repulsive and, men don't like looking at us and we just look disgusting. That's not our problem. So I think that her talking about that, it's almost as if she's speaking from the mindset of an average woman or an average to quote unquote unattractive type of woman. Because a woman who's attractive, I was attractive at 29, I'm still attractive at 33. So it's not this thing where it's like, oh, my birthday came around, so now all of my attractiveness is gone. If one birthday causes you to look hideous, you didn't have any beauty to begin with. And I'm sorry to break it to you. So if those women who were older, if they looked bad, it's because they probably already looked bad before that. It wasn't just the age itself that makes them look bad. Because think about it. When you think about aging is a combination of things like wrinkles. How do you get wrinkles? Well, it's from not doing proper skincare. It's from not like doing the little face yoga or the stretches or not hydrating your skin well enough, not having a healthy diet. When I think about aging, I'm thinking about weight gain. Okay, weight gain comes from overeating. So if a woman is already pretty privileged and disciplined and she knows basic self-care and basic skincare hygiene, she's not going to be unattractive when she gets older anyway. And you guys know my standpoint on this. Most of the time you're not ugly, you're just broke. So unattractiveness, it's not necessarily an age thing, because you can be young and look bad and you can be old and look good. So making this generalization that, if you look older, you're going to look worse. Yeah, maybe if she's broke and if she has no resources and if she's bad at her beauty hobbies, then yeah, she will look bad. But again, that's more of a personal problem. That has more to do with her lack of prioritizing self-care. Because remember, beauty is a reflection of self-care. Having nice, clean, white teeth, clear, smooth skin, a healthy body, healthy hair, all of those beauty markers are something that comes from self-care. So if a woman doesn't have any beauty at all, that means that she doesn't have any self-care at all. And usually if she's not doing any self-care, oftentimes that's actually a symptom of depression. So she shouldn't even be on the dating apps anyway. She shouldn't. She needs to be in a mental health facility learning how to do her basic hygiene routine and get through depression. So using unattractive women as the baseline representation for anybody over 30, what types of women have you been around? And it's funny because I heard her say like, oh, the women who are decentering men, they've only been around quote unquote bad quality men. And they don't define what bad quality means. Oftentimes, the decentering men content creators, these are some of the prettiest women in the social commentary space. No, let's be honest. Look at the average red pill female content creator, Pearl. Look at somebody like Pearl and then compare her to women like Shira7 or like all the decentering men types of content creators, even the ones who are not straight. Even the decentering men content creators who are not even straight. A lot of those women are very pretty. So to make it this argument that like decentering men is the representation of these unattractive like femcel type of women, that's laughable. It's literally laughable. And I would argue that it's the exact opposite. Pretty women oftentimes don't settle because we don't have to. We're not desperate. We don't have as much of a scarcity mindset around men as the average to unattractive women. Because think about it, the average woman, she gets treatment that's comparable to everyone else. So a lot of average women, they struggle with never feeling special. But if you're already pretty privileged, as a lot of the decentering men types of women, they already are, they don't have that same problem. Oh, I never feel special, so, getting married is my one way to finally feel special. A lot of us don't struggle with that as much. And so I know that it sounds radical to somebody who has always had an external locus of control. Like decentering men sounds radical to somebody who has always relied on men for validation because she didn't have any other sources of validation. So that's why on this channel I talk about diversifying your validation, finding multiple sources of micro validation, even when it comes to the male gaze, if you want to. There are other ways that you can be validated by men besides dating and marrying and sleeping with Dusties and accepting breadcrumbs and bragging about text messages or bragging about how you slept with a man once and he wanted to come back for more. That's breadcrumbing type of behavior. So you can decenter men and still get their validation. You can get their validation without becoming codependent on them. That's where you get kind of the Shira Sevens from. That's where you get kind of the hypergamy type of content from. So it's a form of decentering men because, like, for example, hypergamy, they are decentering broke men. The women who are divestors, they're decentering black men. The women who don't date baby daddies, they're decentering baby daddies. They're saying, I am not prioritizing the baby daddies. And also, when it comes to content creators who are dissing feminists, I thought that true feminism was celebrating women having options, because that's all I do on this channel. I'm just telling women, hey, you have the option. Marriage is an option. It's not a requirement. Having kids, that's an option. It's not a requirement. Having a boyfriend, optional. Being desired by every man you come into contact with, optional. So that's all I'm doing over here on this channel. But notice how, if you look at Blunt Girlie's content, she literally started off the first 5 minutes calling women unintelligent, saying that they essentially lack social skills, saying they hit the wall. Do you see how many personal insults she starts off her video with? So that's a form of gaslighting, because it's this mindset of, if you don't agree with me, I'm going to insult you. And for those people calling decentering men extreme, okay, well, being broke is extreme. Being abusive is extreme. Cheating is extreme. Yelling and shouting at your wife and throwing things at her, that's extreme. So all of this fake outrage that you have against my channel, are you keeping the same energy towards the extreme misogynists? Are you calling out their channels by name? Are you responding to all of their videos? Or are you only responding to Exoticals United? So out of all of the thousands of channels on YouTube, out of all of the different extreme and radical talking points, you choose to randomly target my YouTube channel. So do you see how that's fake outrage? It's fake. She just wanted a reason to try to target my channel, and she's doing a very bad job, by the way. And then she said that when people make mean statements against her, she likes to explore those mean statements. Okay, well, that's you. Everybody doesn't have to sit there and explore, hey, why did this guy call me a dumbass bitch? Am I a dumbass bitch? No. Everybody doesn't have to sit there and explore these psychologically abusive statements that men give to them. That sounds like you've been through a lot of narcissistic gaslighting, or maybe you were raised by a narcissistic parent or something. But women are not required to, quote unquote, explore all of the insults that men give them. And then there's this talking point where it's like, oh, well, you need to just see the man's point of view. Well, why should I go out of my way to see your point of view if you won't respect mine? Do you see the hypocrisy there? It's like, why is it that I have to always be the bigger person? I have to always see everybody else's point of view, but then nobody wants to see mine, and they want to relegate themselves to calling me an extremist and radical. Because I think that you should put men in a circle like this, what I'm showing on the screen. I'm radical because I agree with this as opposed to that. Oh my God, I just saw a comment on Blunt Girlie's channel. I have to screenshot this. So about the whole exploring talking points thing, this person said, I am the type of person that will sit with a Nazi racist to explore their point of view. Like my search history and watch history on YouTube would confuse people. People will dismiss something so fast just because they don't like the idea of it. Imagine if I came on here and announced in front of my subscribers that I'm exploring Nazi talking points. Do you know how fast people would run to call me racist? So isn't it interesting that whenever somebody's trying to come against this community, they say, oh, well, you need to explore talking points. And, then they're using examples like, oh, I explored Nazi talking points. And it's like, do you guys not realize that you're exposing yourselves? But also Blunt Girlie's talking point where she said that men think women hit the wall by 30 because most women do look bad by 30. Not if the man is wealthy. If the man is wealthy, he has access to better looking women in their 30s. And I talk about this all the time. Go to the nicest neighborhood in your town and look at the women there over 30, and then go to the hood and look at those women over 30. So if she's making the argument that most men feel like the 30-year-olds they're around look ugly, all that's doing is telling me that those men are probably low status men. Because only low status men are the ones who are constantly surrounded by these unattractive, dusty, ratchet women. This is a pretty privileged channel, so we do not represent the demographic that Blunt Girlie's even discussing. And also, calling it a gender war, making YouTube videos is not a war, okay? So a war is something very serious where people are being unalived and people are being like held hostage and dominated and subjugated for thousands of years. People making YouTube response videos, that's not a war. So her using that language, do you see how she's trying to exaggerate the talking point to paint me out to be a villain? Like, oh my God, there's this war that's being started, and these women who are making decentering men videos, they're participating in a war. And it's like, okay, if you're so against the concept of war, are you going to go out and protest? Are you donating to other countries right now that are actually being invaded? No, probably not. So that's how I know it's just fake outrage. And another talking point I heard is women who are truly intelligent are curious about everything. That's false. That's not the definition of the word intelligence. Being intelligent is about having problem-solving skills, pattern recognition, memory, reasoning, knowing how to learn things quickly. So curiosity is more of a personality trait. That's not a measure of your IQ. So that's another gaslighting talking point that Blunt Girlie used in her video. Like, oh, if you were really smart, you'd be more curious about men. You'd be more curious about what they think. You'd be curious about whether or not you hit the wall. No, sorry. Women do not have to waste our intelligence on studying men 24/7 and studying desirability in the male gaze. That is not how you are required to use your intelligence. There are plenty of people who are smart and they're focused on narrow topics, like they have their own passions. Basically, I don't have to use all of my brain power on how to get a man in order to prove that I'm smart. And also, even if most women over 30 do look bad, that still does not invalidate my talking point about how women should not center their lives around men. So I stand 10 toes down on everything I said. I believe that this chart right here is incorrect. I don't think that's the best way for women to live their lives. By putting men in the center and prioritizing men above everything else, above their children, above their careers, above their own emotional and physical safety. And another talking point I heard is that women who decenter men are not taking the time to get to know men and they're just living in an echo chamber. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. How do you even know if I'm in an echo chamber? How many YouTube videos does someone have to watch before it qualifies as an echo chamber? Are you saying that I'm not allowed to make any decentering men videos? I'm not allowed to watch decentering men content creators? So they throw out this gaslighting term, you're in an echo chamber, but then they do not describe the qualifications of what makes something an echo chamber. Because if being around people who have similar mindsets to you, if that's an echo chamber, then technically every political party is an echo chamber, every religion is an echo chamber, every ethnic group or group of people where they share values, all of those things are echo chambers. So if you're truly against the concept of echo chambers, are you coming against all those other groups of people or just the decentering men content? Because my content is really about shifting your focus back to yourself after over prioritizing male validation and kind of like over prioritizing relationships and emotional labor. So for example, if you have a high desire for a man, so much so to the point where your self-esteem goes down once you hit a certain age, that's being male-centered. So once you decenter men, you're able to decenter the insecurities that come from men. So that's the whole point of me talking about this topic. It's to help women to get more self-esteem, basically, and to get rid of their codependent mindsets. And then throughout her video, Blunt Girlie said, oh, psychology says that women are dumb who don't take the time to get to know men. What do you mean psychology says? Where are the articles that you're referencing? You know, if you want to just say that psychology in general says something, you need to show proof. And also that's false. The entire psychology field is not red pill. So I'm trying really hard to take this seriously. It's like the entire psychology field is not even red pill. They have all different niches within the psychology sector, There's child psychology. There are gender studies, which I love, by the way. I love gender studies. So if she would have said, according to this gender studies article, or, according to XYZ person, you're unintelligent if you don't date men. Okay, if she would have had several pieces of evidence to back it up, then I would have believed it. But the fact that she just made a random false statement, oh, psychology in general says that if you don't want to date, then you're unintelligent. That doesn't even sound right. That doesn't even sound believable. Because if the argument was that not dating men makes you unintelligent, then you'd be able to imply that lesbians are automatically unintelligent. So we know that that's not true. We know that intelligence is not based on whether or not you date men or what kind of men you choose. You could be smart and choose the wrong man. It happens all the time. And then there's this argument that if you don't get along with someone, it's because you don't understand their point of view. And we all know that that's false. Like, it's not my responsibility to go and study everybody else and to figure everybody else out. Like, no, if my boundary is that I don't want to be around a misogynist, then that's my boundary. So why is it that nobody can respect my boundaries, but I have to respect everyone else? I have to be understanding towards everyone else. And I feel like the red pill space is not understanding towards women. I don't feel like the red pill space promotes a lot of empathy towards women. So why is it that decentering men, why is it that we owe men this empathy? No. This channel supports selective empathy. I don't have to give you my understanding or my compassion. I don't have to give you my empathy. I don't owe that to anyone. I'm not religious, so I don't have any moral code that I have to follow. And I'm definitely not going to give empathy to somebody who wouldn't give me the same empathy. So it's like, okay, if men are talking about women hitting the wall once they're above 30, well then why should I give them empathy if they're bald and fat and look horrible? Like, no, I'm not giving you empathy if you don't give me empathy. I'm just keeping the same energy. And I saw some people saying that if you are 30 and above and you have pretty privilege, you are the exception and not the rule. And it's like, okay, so I'm the exception then. This channel has at least 30,000 women who are the exception. So we get to stand in that. Just because we are a part of a rare and small group does not make us invalid. So it's almost like they're trying to say that, you're such a small group that you're irrelevant. And it's like, no, I have the right to have a voice as well. I have the right to create a YouTube channel from the perspective of a pretty privileged woman over the age of 30 who chooses not to center my life around men. Just because I'm rare doesn't mean that I need to be invisible. So it's almost as if she's kind of implying that we don't have the right to visibility because most women cannot relate to us. And this is a pattern I've noticed a lot with the exotical space. A lot of women get mad because they can't relate to our content. They get mad because they can't relate to being pretty. They're mad because they can't relate to being a multifaceted, multidimensional person. And it's like, sis, that's not my problem. Just because you can't relate does not mean that my experiences aren't valid. And throughout Blunt Girlie's videos, she will label people as radical feminists, but she never names names. And that's because there are none that she can actually name. She's either too scared to name names, or by definition, she wouldn't be able to consider any content creators on YouTube as being true radical feminists. Because if a person really is truly radical and they're extreme, that actually goes against the YouTube guidelines. So those types of channels will be removed because YouTube will actually flag it as like hate speech. So who are all of these invisible radical feminists that Blunt Girlie is talking about? Who are all these invisible extremists who have been on YouTube for years? So you're telling me that these channels are so extreme, yet they were able to surpass the YouTube community guidelines for years upon years and make hundreds of videos about decentering men? Meanwhile, if you look at the red pill space, there are actually some content creators who have been caught in real life committing crimes. There have been several channels from the red pill space that have been demonetized over and over, removed from YouTube over and over. They get caught up in crimes and stuff. Men like Andrew Tate, he's been caught up in so much controversy. So it's like, if you were to just look at the group as a collective and just look at the leaders and the prominent people in the red pill space, and then look at the prominent people who are like feminists on YouTube, which ones have the most controversy about them in real life? Because last time I checked, it was definitely the men. And then in her video, Blunt Girlie used the example of how whenever somebody doesn't understand something, they get angry and scared and run away. And she was saying how, for example, with spiders, when you see them, you get angry, you get scared, you leave the room, you don't want to be in the same room as the spider. And it's like, okay, even if the women who are decentering men, even if we did quote unquote run away from men and not date them, wouldn't that be a good thing? Because why would a man want to be with a woman who doesn't want him? So saying that it's a bad thing that women run away from men, that's actually not bad because you don't want to try to force somebody to love you, right? So do you hear how unhinged that sounds? Like, oh, if you're decentering men, it means that you're just running away from them. So like that's wrong. You shouldn't be running away from a relationship with a man. It's like, no, sis, some women have valid reasons for not wanting a relationship. And so if somebody is afraid of men, that's actually a very valid fear. I mean, let's think about the stats. Like, who's more likely to go to jail? Who's more likely to be a violent criminal? Who's more likely to SA? Who's more likely to cheat and lie? So I think that if women are running from men and they don't want to date them, it's not always because they're physically scared of men. Sometimes women can be emotionally scared of men as well because men can cause physical or emotional pain. So if a woman feels like some sort of PTSD and she doesn't want to date, I think it is completely valid if she chooses to take a break from dating or if she chooses to never date again. That's totally valid. Being single is not wrong. There is nothing wrong with being single. And also, why is it that women have to learn men and men don't have to learn women? Because last time I checked, which gender is reading the most relationship books? It's women. What gender is reading the most books on how to have a healthy relationship, how to have a healthy marriage? It's women. All of these dating coaches, the majority of them are geared towards women. So to imply that women are just lazy and they're not trying to understand men, that's completely false. And anytime you go on the internet, you'll see that the majority of dating advice is geared towards women. And a lot of the male content creators with a male audience, a lot of their content about dating is really just kind of bashing women. So once again, it's interesting that there's all this smoke for the decentering men creators, but no smoke for people like Fresh and Fit. No smoke for people who they bring on a whole bunch of ex-workers or they bring on these women who are not articulate and then they humiliate those women. So no smoke for those people. And then I find it interesting how Blunt Girly tries to imply that if you're decentering men, you're angry and bitter, but she says nothing about men like the ones on Fresh and Fit, where they've literally gotten into physical fights with women. There have literally been men on there who have actually assaulted women. There have been scenarios where they kick them out in the middle of the show on a live stream. So you're calling me angry, or you're implying that our content is just angry and bitter, but are you calling those men angry for physically assaulting women? So they're not angry, it's just us. Got it. And then at the end of her video, she links to another video that talks about a bisexual girl who dated women. And she was saying how dating women helped her to understand men. And it's like, wait. So you started off by calling it extreme and radical to be lesbian or to be like celibate and stuff like that and to not date men. So that started off being extreme. But then at the end of the video, you contradict yourself by giving a bisexual woman authority over the dating market? But I thought that you guys don't like women who decentered men. A woman who is bi and literally dates women, that is what you guys are calling extreme and radical. And so I found it interesting that at the end of her video, Blunt Girly, she referenced an LGBT woman as a source on how to understand men. And it's like, first of all, that actually is a little bit much. Like, I don't think women should have to go out and date women in order to understand men. That's not a solution, sis. That's not a solution. If the woman is straight, why are you trying to link a video that implies that, by dating women, that's going to give them the most understanding on how bad they are? It's almost that sort of undertone where it's like, if only you dated women, then you'd understand how horrible they are. This is no different than the women. Remember when they tried to attack Princella, the Queenmaker? They attacked her and they were like, oh, she dated this girl and she was basically a bad partner to her. And it's like, okay, even if she was a bad partner, that still doesn't negate the talking points about men. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.